up, everybody? I'm Chef Mikey. Welcome back to Chef's Harvest Farm. I've just had a huge push lately getting all my summer crops out and all my fall crops planted. At this point, I mean, all my beds are planted. I'm going to harvest some green onions today and some lettuce, I think, and those beds will become empty, and then I'm going to plant them right away. Hopefully today I get them planted. So that's really been my strategy for the last several weeks, is to try to get the beds planted the same day that the crops get pulled out. And of course, sometimes it's the next day, or sometimes it's 3 days later. You know, this time of year, the end of September, mid-August, that's like the time to get your fall garden planted. And it's been really challenging for me this year in the field because it hasn't rained in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So I'm just out there hand watering. You know, you transplant something, it needs water immediately, you know, so I'm out there hand watering. You direct seed something, it needs water immediately, so I'm out there hand watering. I do have the whole irrigation set up, and I've had a lot of questions from people about the irrigation, so I'm definitely going to do a video about the irrigation soon. So just be patient. You know, the video, learning to edit videos and all that type of stuff turned out to be harder than anticipated, but I think I got a hang of it now, so hopefully it goes a little bit faster. But also finding the time to do it on top of doing all this. I thought I was going to have some help in the fall time, and that just kind of fell through. I just decided I was going to do all the work myself rather than try to hire somebody else and get them trained. And then by the time they're trained, it's winter and I don't have work for them, or I have very little work for them. So I decided I'm just going to do everything myself and then look to hire like a full-time employee next year. So through those thoughts, I ended up just buying a tractor, which basically so I can move compost and wood chips. A lot of the time and energy spent up until this point's been shoveling compost and wood chips. Every bed flips like 3 wheelbarrows of compost and maybe a wheelbarrow or 2 of wood chips also, which is exhausting and time consuming. So now I just scoop it up with my tractor, load 3 wheelbarrows with a scoop, and do my bed flip. And so using that method, I was able to do 6 bed flips in one day last week. I mean, I never done 6 bed flips in one day before. I mean, because before I was shoveling it all with a shovel. So yeah, that was huge. So through all this, you know, just like trying to keep my beds planted, I just get in my mind, because, you know, like a couple of days now, like in August or September, if I have a bed that's empty for 2, 3, 4 days, well, by the time that crop's going to be ready, because the hours of daylight are getting shorter, the days are getting colder, so this stuff will start out kind of growing fast, and then it's going to slow down, and then it's going to get to be winter, and stuff's not going to grow at all, even if I can keep it alive. But if I can get it to be full grown by that time, then all I have to do is keep it alive using row covers and techniques like that, which I'll share with you when we get there, because I'm planning to farm all winter long. I signed up for the winter farmers market, and last winter I was not successful. Around Christmas time, we got 0 degrees, which is unheard of in Tennessee, and it didn't go above freezing for a week, and I pretty much lost everything. I'm hoping for a really more successful fall and winter. I had some other crazy things happen, which I'm going to share with you sometime too, like a flood is crazy. The main water line in front of the house broke and like flooded out half of my garden. So I did not have a successful fall and winter last year. It's nuts. I'm going to make a video about it sometime and share it with you guys. So I was so caught up in just like plant, right? Like I got my high tunnels cleaned out, which had tomatoes and cucumbers in them, and cherry tomatoes. I only grew cherry tomatoes this year, and it went great. I mean, I did the best I could with trellising them, and I did some lower and lean method, but that was just like a ton of work, and it just got away from me on top of everything else. So I did really good with like trellising and keeping them clean, basically until they hit the roof, you know, and then I lower and leaned like maybe 25% of them, but that took me like 8 or 10 hours to do it. So I don't remember, maybe not quite that long, but it took me a long time. I ended up just kind of letting them go wild at the end. I'll show you videos. I got some clips of like the last tomato harvest here. Yeah, like there was tomatoes just all over the ground. So I cleaned the whole tunnels out, every single plant pretty much. Yeah, I had them completely empty. And then there's just tomatoes all over the ground in there. So, I mean, what do, right? I just did the best I could. I just raked them up, and in my head I'm thinking like, oh man, I'm gonna have a lot of tomatoes popping up out of the ground next year. And I just rebuilt the whole tunnels while I had them clean, so fresh. I strung up the beds and the paths with the string like I do. Built the new beds, fresh compost, fresh wood chips. So I mean, those beds, once they get cropped out, they're probably good like all winter and into next spring. They won't need any further amendments, I don't think. And so, like, you know, the tomatoes, there was some tomatoes that I didn't get cleaned out. They just got covered with compost and wood chips. And so I planted the beds immediately. That's part of the 6 beds that I did in one day. And, I was just like, I need to get them planted. I need to get them planted. Well, I did. And sure enough, as soon as those crops came up, so didn't tomato plants, sprouted right with them. Like, God damn it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. You know, in hindsight, it's like, oh man, I knew that was going to happen. But I was thinking it was going to happen next year, right? And so, I mean, that's just like my inexperience doing this. And also one of those things, like, I kind of knew it was going to happen, but I wanted to think that it wasn't. The tomatoes sprouted up right in the middle of my arugula and spinach crops and lettuce. So I got little tomato plants coming up in the middle of them, and my celery. So, you know, I mean, I weeded them out with a wire weeder, and I hand picked some out, and I'll probably actually have to go through again and pull a couple out here and there. So, you know, in hindsight, or maybe next time, if I have like tomatoes all over the ground and I know there's tomato seed everywhere, I just water them in and let those seeds sprout. Then I can like come in and flame weed them, or I can just knock them down with a hoe really easy. You know, it's a lot easier to kill weeds when they're this big than it is when they're this big. So yeah, you know, in hindsight, I'd probably water them in for a few days with the overhead sprinklers, let those plants sprout, then terminate them, then plant my beds on top of them, plant my crops. That would alleviate the stress of having weeds popping up in my arugula. It would also set me back a week, which by the time you harvest, it ends up being like 2 or 3 week later harvest. If you're planting a fall garden and you're planting it where you had tomatoes or maybe cucumbers or peppers or any other type of fruiting crop that might have dropped seeds on the ground right there, just keep in mind that they might actually sprout up in the middle of your fall garden and cause you some issues. So it's something I'm going to keep in mind next year for sure. But for now, let's go check out the fall garden. So if you've seen any of my other videos, then you probably, I might have mentioned the mums. So those have actually been doing pretty good. These are all I got left out of 130. So some green onions planted, uh, some more herbs and cilantro, dill. If you watch, well, I just made a video about the herbs, so I did go ahead and plant several trays of these for the late fall and into the winter. And then this is all Salanova lettuce. That's the hemp garden. We started harvesting it yesterday. I'll show you some more on that sometime, but not in this video. There's a nice bed of Salanova lettuce. Probably gonna go till next week. I got a different bed of Salanova I'm gonna harvest this week. That's some arugula under the insect netting to protect from flea beetles. And those are some jumbo green onions. I'm gonna harvest the rest of these today. I like harvested this bed the last 2 weeks, and then you can see they just get bigger. So I just plant like a ton of them all at once, and then I just harvest them. You know, those are probably nearly 3 feet tall, and I'll get nearly 50 cents each for them. So you can see the green onions are definitely a profitable crop for me. This is a bed of dill. which I've already harvested, and I've already made several $100s off this bed of dill. More on that later. I just made a whole video about herbs. This is a bed of carrots that are like just barely sprouting. I just planted those last week. This is another bed of herbs that I just paper pot transplanted yesterday. It's dill all the way down, cilantro in the middle, and then parsley at this end. And you can see I paper potted it like really, really small, which is fine. Smaller is better than bigger with the paper pot system. And just another succession of Salanova lettuce. One succession of carrots here. A nice looking row of beets. This is my next bigger succession of carrots. Then another succession of carrots. I've just been basically planting as much carrots as possible. So I'm hoping to just get them like fully grown by, the end of the season, and then they can just stay in the ground until I harvest them. They'll just pretty much stop growing in the winter. These are another bed of beets that's paper pot transplanted. This is a direct seeded bed of watermelon radishes. And you can see it's got like really spotty germination in the top of the bed, but then like it's pretty decent down here. It was like planted in the middle of the summer, so I think the top of the bed just got dried out a little bit more than the bottom of the bed. And then these are two different successions of Salanova lettuce planted 2 weeks apart from each other. This is a bed of eggplants. They'll be coming out soon, but there's a lot of eggplants on there. I'm gonna harvest this week. And a little bit of broccoli. I think I've really decided against doing these things. I love growing broccoli, but it just doesn't work well on my scale. But we like to eat it, and it's very popular at the farmers market. It'll sell out fast. It's just people aren't going to pay me $20 a head for broccoli or to make it worth it. They're going to pay me like maybe 7 or 8. And then this is just another succession of carrot. And this is where my next high tunnel is going to go. So I'm just getting one more succession of cash crops in this little area, and then we're going to build another high tunnel right over those beds this winter. So this Salanova lettuce is going to get harvested today. I just kind of want to take a garden tour before I start harvesting stuff. These are 2 beds of celery. I guess this bed's all celery, and this one has some celery root, celeriac on one side. I had some pest issues in here, so you can see like these kind of plants right here are a little bit stunted. I think it was from thrip damage, but we seem to have gotten it under control, and everything in here is recovering real well. Just all the tomatoes and cucumbers overgrown in here, causes a lot of pest issues. And then this is my other tunnel. This is the one where there was a lot of tomatoes popping up in these ones. Salanova lettuce looking pretty good over here. Spinach on this side looking good. The spinach and arugula were direct seeded, and then the Salanova lettuce is paper pot transplanted. And then that's a bed of beets, paper pot transplanted. and direct seeded radishes and turnips under the insect netting here. And then it's just like a crappy bed of eggplants that never did good. And those carrots, they're struggling. They don't have irrigation at all, and it hasn't rained in like 8 weeks. And then a bed of carrots in this tunnel that was planted in the middle of the summer, so it's got really spotty germination. So yeah, we'll just harvest what we can out of it. And then I just paper pot transplanted this bed of green onions last week, and then we're right back in the nursery. So that's the fall garden tour, folks. I really appreciate y'all checking in, subscribing to the channel, watching my videos, and giving me all the positive feedback and support. It really goes a long way, just the encouragement and everything, and just to know that there's people out there that are actually interested in learning about what I'm doing here, and I'm eager to share. I think I have a lot of things that y'all want to learn. So make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next one.